I built my house with my own 2 hands. Not literally every nail, but close enough. 15 years of overtime shifts, skipped vacations, and saying, maybe next year, to anything fun. The driveway. That was my pride. 28 feet wide, custom poured reinforced concrete, designed to support heavy equipment because I restore classic cars. It wasn't just a driveway. It was mine. So imagine my surprise when I came home on a Thursday afternoon and saw bright orange spray paint cutting straight across it. Not small markings. A thick line. With arrows. And the words, Future Access Road. I thought it was a mistake. It had to be. Then I saw the temporary survey flags lining the side of my driveway like a parade of bad decisions. And at the far end of my property stood 3 people in reflective vests, talking to none other than our HOA president, Cynthia Vale. Cynthia had moved into the neighborhood 3 years earlier and treated the HOA like it was her personal kingdom. Perfect hair. Perfect posture. Perfectly condescending smile. She spotted me pulling into the garage and waved like she was doing me a favor. I stepped out slowly. What is that? I asked, pointing at the paint. She clasped her hands together. Oh, good, you're home. I was meaning to speak with you. What is that? She gestured grandly toward my driveway. The board approved a new internal access road. It will connect the east and west cul-de-sacs. It improves traffic flow and emergency access.
Ist zegt de her.
That's my driveway. She tilted her head slightly. Technically, according to our community development revision, it falls within the association's right-of-way corridor. No, it doesn't. She smiled wider. We voted on it last month. I didn't. You didn't attend. I felt heat rising in my chest. You can't just take my driveway. She turned to one of the surveyors. Mark the boundary here as discussed.
They did.
Right over my concrete. That was the moment I realized something dangerous. They weren't asking. They thought they already won. I spent that night digging through 15 years of paperwork. Closing documents, plat maps, title insurance, survey records. And there it was. My property line.
Clear as day.
The HOA had a utility easement along the outer 5 feet of the lawn for underground cables. Not a roadway easement. Not vehicular access. Not public passage. Utility access only. They were twisting language. The next morning, I went to the county records office. I requested certified copies of the original subdivision filings. The clerk raised an eyebrow when I explained why. You're the 3rd homeowner this week asking about that HOA project. That made my stomach drop. They're doing this to others. She nodded. Looks like they're trying to create a through road without city approval. That was illegal. Very illegal. I drove home slowly. Because if they were cutting corners legally, they were probably cutting corners structurally too. And that's when an idea began forming. Not revenge. Not yet. Just protection. If they wanted to turn my reinforced driveway into a public road without permission, then I was going to make sure it followed every single legal and engineering standard required for one. And I knew something they didn't. My driveway wasn't built for light commuter traffic. It was built with specialized expansion joints and drainage channels for private use. If improperly modified, it wouldn't hold up. They didn't wait. 2 weeks later, bulldozers arrived. No city permits displayed. No official signage. Just HOA contracted crews. I walked out with a folder under my arm. You're trespassing, I told the foreman. He looked uncomfortable. Ma'am. Sir. I corrected.
Sir.
We have authorization from the HOA. Do you have authorization from the county? He hesitated. Cynthia appeared like she'd been summoned by drama itself. You're obstructing community improvement, she said smoothly. You're committing property violation, I replied calmly. She leaned closer. We passed a special assessment. This benefits everyone. You mean it increases your resale value? Her smile twitched. She turned to the crew. Continue. And they did. They cut into my driveway. Saw blades screamed against reinforced concrete. Chunks flew. Dust filled the air. I filmed everything. Every second. Every license plate. every contractor logo. Because I knew something they didn't know. 3 months earlier, after a severe winter freeze, I had installed a subsurface water diversion trench beneath part of the driveway to prevent ice cracking. It redirected groundwater. It was designed for controlled residential use, not constant traffic vibration. If heavy vehicles began crossing repeatedly without proper structural adaptation, the soil would destabilize. Gradually, then suddenly, and they were about to reroute daily traffic directly across it. I didn't need revenge. I just needed patience. It took exactly 17 days. At first, the neighborhood loved it. Shorter drive times. Convenient cut-through. Cynthia even held a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Yes, a ribbon. Across what used to be my driveway. I attended, smiling. 3 days later, the first crack appeared. Hairline. Barely noticeable. Then another. Then the slight dip. By week 3, vehicles began bouncing slightly as they passed over the central seam. Someone complained in the HOA forum. Cynthia dismissed it as normal settling. By week 4, a delivery truck's rear tire sank half an inch into a widening depression. Photos circulated. By week 5, after heavy rain, water pooled in the exact location of my former drainage trench. And that's when the ground started shifting. Not dramatically, just enough. Enough for panic to whisper through the neighborhood. I said nothing, because I had already filed something else. A certified complaint with the county planning department, including